Welcome and a good Erev Shabbos. And can I offer you some matzah? Why would we be having matzah today? Didn't we have enough of it already? Having matzah today because today is a holiday known as Pesach Sheni, second Pesach. Relax. You didn't have to clean up the house. Didn't have to do anything. It's just a custom to have on this day, a month after the previous Passover, piece of matzah to remember. What are we remembering? We're remembering that in the first year that the Jewish people came out of Egypt, as they were in the desert, just after the tabernacle had been rebuilt, had been established, had been put up, God commanded Moses to tell the Jewish people that on the 14th of Nisan, 2 weeks after the tabernacle had been put up, it would be time to commemorate the Paschal offering that they had done the year before, when they had put the blood on the doorposts and had spent the night in quarantine, eating and having the Seder. There were a few people who, at the time, were busy. They were busy with the mitzvah of Halvayas Ames. They were busy carrying around the coffin both of Joseph and of his brothers. As you recall, when the Jewish people left Egypt the year before, everybody went to gather gold and silver and clothes from their neighbors. Moses went to retrieve the coffin of Joseph because Joseph had made his brethren swear that they wouldn't leave without him, and that they would take his bones with them when they left Egypt. And it's understood not only the bones of Joseph, but also the bones and the coffins of the rest of the tribes, of the original tribes, all the other brothers. So there were a number of people that had been carrying the coffins around for the past whatever number of days it was their turn to do. But this announcement about Passover and the Paschal lamb and the sacrifice and the offering was coming too soon for them to be able to reestablish a state of ritual purity, to be able to offer Paschal lamb. And no fault of their own, they were busy doing another mitzvah, but they were done out. And they complained and they asked Moses, why? Why should we be done out like this? Isn't there some sort of solution? Normally when there's a general principle in Judaism that if you're busy with a mitzvah, that if you're busy doing a mitzvah, then you can't be expected to be in two places at once, and you're excused from having to do this other one because you're busy doing that one. For instance, when somebody is making sure that somebody that needs to be buried is getting buried, then they don't have time, they don't have opportunity to put on tefillin to say Shema because they're busy seeing to it that this person needs to get buried. After the person is buried, if there's time, then they can, pick up on what they missed out. But at the moment, they are totally excused from doing it because you can't be in two places at once. You can't do two things at once. So most of us would probably find ourselves somewhat relieved were it to be found out that we were excused from a mitzvah. Not these guys. These guys said, Moshe, please, can't you do something? Moshe prayed to Hashem, and Hashem said, fine. You know what? A month from now, on the 14th of Iyar, those people that were, due to circumstances beyond their control, unable to bring the Korban Pesach as it should have been brought, when it should have been brought, can bring it a month later. There's a second chance. There's a way to pick up on what was lost. You know that there are 613 mitzvot in the Torah. There are 365 don't do's, and there are 248 do's. Not all of them are still applicable in our day and age. Without the temple, there are a number, all the sacrificial ones are not available. Out of the 248 positive commandments, only 126 are currently applicable. Of the 365 negative commandments, only 243 are still applicable. If you do a little bit of math, you sort of notice that there's 122 fewer positive mitzvahs and 122 fewer negative mitzvahs that are available in our day-to-day lives. So one of the early authorities, Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, who was known as the author of the Shnei Luchot HaBrit, known as the Shlah HaKodesh, chief rabbi of Prague in the Middle Ages, writes that the way of remembering this number of 369, which are the number of mitzvahs applicable now, is to be found in the verse, I sleep, but my heart is awake. If you add up the numerical value of the letters in the word for I sleep, Yeshana, it comes to 365. And then when you add the 4 letters to that, Yud, Shin, Nun, and Hey, it adds up to 369. So it's a way of remembering that we only have 369 mitzvot available. Because we're spiritually in a state of exile, we're spiritually asleep. In fact, out of those 369, a lot of them we don't do anyway because they're only there in certain situations. Like you have to make a vow in order to fulfill the mitzvah of not delaying fulfilling your vow. You have to have a house that has a roof that's flat in order to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of building a guardrail around the flat roof. So actually there are only about 270 mitzvahs today that all of us are required to observe without any specific circumstance being happening. 48 are positive and 222 are negative. The author of the Sefer HaChinuch, Aaron Halevi, writes that 270 is the numerical value of the Hebrew word for awake that we mentioned before in the phrase from King Solomon, I sleep, but my heart is awake. So maybe on Pesach Sheni we should take a note from these intrepid men that were carrying around the Chevra Kadisha of the Jewish people at the time. And we should also say, hey, look at all these mitzvahs that we're being denied the opportunity, the privilege, being able to bring an offering, to be able to come into the temple, to be able to be seen at the temple, to be able to experience the way Judaism should be, from fulfilling Hashem's commandments the way they should be fulfilled in all of their glory. And maybe we also need to call out to Hashem, enough. Maybe we need to call out to Hashem, we also want to participate. No Jew is completely asleep, says King Solomon. Our inner core, our spiritual core, the mitzvahs that we keep on doing, our air, we're awake. Please God, we should find ourselves out of this exile, out of the exile, and out of the quarantine, and out of the danger, and into the era of Mashiach Tzidkenu. B'mher v'yameinu. I wish you a happy Pesach Sheni.